Hello, welcome to the presentation on increasing intervention for bullying. My name is Gatling-Garrette, and I will be presenting to you on how to increase adolescents' bullying intervention based on previous empirical studies. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce factors of the bystander effect in bullying, which includes empathy, moral disengagement and distress, self-efficacy, and analyze school-wide bullying intervention programs. Before we start, let's review the 5 parts of the bystander intervention model. The first is noticing the event, interpreting the event, accepting responsibility, knowledge of intervening, and deciding to intervene. Throughout this presentation, I will be filling in these blanks for my proposed bystander intervention model. There are 3 steps through this based on the factors, and there is a separate block to inform of what to do for a separate situation. Now, we will define empathy in its 2 types. Empathy is the ability to understand and share feelings of one another. Empathy has 2 categories, which is cognitive empathy and affective empathy. Cognitive empathy is the ability to recognize emotions of another individual, whereas affective empathy is empathetic concern and sharing another's feelings or emotion. In Meta-Laciano's and Jenkins studies, they found that boys who show affective empathy will be more likely to intervene in a bullying situation, whereas girls who don't show affective empathy will still be more likely to intervene in a bullying situation. So, how can we use these findings for my proposed model? We can introduce programs to increase affective empathy that is targeted for adolescent boys. So as you can see, increasing affective empathy is one of my first steps for my proposed bystander intervention model. Now let's go to the second step. Next, I will be presenting to you on moral disengagement and distress. Moral disengagement is the beliefs in justifying negative actions that is shared in a significant social group. In a study by Sigit-Seema, Wimbaran, Caravita, and Genie, it was found that moral disengagement moderated the effect of friendship on changes in individual bullying. It was also found that girls who had friends with moral disengagement were more likely to decrease in bullying, whereas boys will decrease in bullying when they have friends with high moral disengagement. In a study by Thornburg and Polizzi, there was a correlation between moral disengagement and passive bystanding. Moral distress is defined as painful feelings or psychological distress that occur when a person is conscious of the morally appropriate action, but cannot carry out that action. In Thornburg and Polizzi's study, it was found that students who have experienced moral distress in the past are more likely to anticipate moral distress and will be more likely to intervene in the future. So how can we use these findings in order to help with moral disengagement and distress? First, we should find ways in the bullying intervention model to decrease moral disengagement. We should also work with students who have experienced moral distress. So as you can see, we filled in 2 different blocks. For the second step in my proposed bystander intervention model, I would like to decrease moral disengagement. And separately, I would also like to assist students who have moral distress. Now I would like to introduce self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the confidence in one's ability to perform a task. In Chapman and Brake's study on bystanders and bullying, they found that self-efficacy positively correlated with the intent to intervene. However, it did not correlate with intervention rates. So, how can we use these findings of self-efficacy in bullying intervention? We should equip parents, teachers, administrators, or significant adults to help increase self-efficacy in adolescents so that they are able to intervene. As you can see, my proposed bystander intervention model is complete. First, we should increase affective empathy. Then we should decrease moral disengagement. and then finally increase self-efficacy. We should then also assist students who have experienced moral distress due to not intervening in a bullying situation prior. Now that I have completed my proposed bystander intervention model for bullying intervention, I would now like to analyze other bullying intervention programs and see how different they were from mine. There was a study where the researchers created an anti-bullying program that emphasized on empathy, self-efficacy, and anti-bullying attitudes of onlookers. The researchers found that the size of intervention was based on gender and age, with stronger effects on boys. Also, this program did not increase anti-bullying attitudes, empathy towards victims, or self-efficacy for defending. So what was missing in this model? The Keeble model included increasing effective empathy and increasing self-efficacy. However, it didn't include decreasing moral disengagement, which was included in my proposed bullying intervention model. This may be a reason why this model was unsuccessful with adolescents. So, what are the practical ways of using the proposed bystander intervention model in the school system? For increasing effective empathy, we should have guidance counselors hold assemblies twice during the school year about empathy. Also, there should be in the learning objectives on what empathy is, especially what effective empathy is, during our health and PE classes in the state of Virginia. For decreasing moral disengagement, we should work with students on interpreting statements that may harm others, such as telling a joke that they may think that is funny, but the person who the joke is told to may not feel that is funny. And then finally, for self-efficacy, we should have important adults empower students to intervene in a bullying event. Now, for assisting students who have experienced moral disengagement, we should work with them and inform them that it's not their fault and not helping out the victim, and finding ways to help increase their self-efficacy in the future. So how does my proposed bullying intervention model help with the bystander model? First, increasing effective empathy can help with noticing the event. Next, decreasing moral disengagement and increasing effective empathy can help with interpreting the event. Decreasing moral disengagement and increasing self-efficacy helps with accepting responsibility. Increasing self-efficacy and decreasing moral disengagement can help with knowledge of intervening. And finally, all three factors of increasing effective empathy, decreasing moral disengagement, and increasing self-efficacy can help with the last step, which is deciding to intervene. There is a caution with this model. While this model does use theoretical and empirical approaches, it may not fully increase bullying intervention or completely stop bullying in schools. It is up to the students to be willing to intervene and to find ways through their micro-society and school to intervene. It is also up to teachers to prevent bias towards their students and to be able to intervene right away if they are informed about or notice a bullying event. So in conclusion, we define empathy with emphasis on effective empathy. We also define moral disengagement and distress and self-efficacy. We then looked at the Keeble model and looked at what went wrong with this model and how to change it. We finally created the proposed bullying bystander intervention model and gave it practical applications, which is increasing effective empathy through classrooms and guidance counselors, decreasing moral disengagement through helping with interpreting if things are right or wrong, and increasing self-efficacy through teachers empowering us to intervene bullying. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation.